the floor, and you know what I'm talking about here on my channel right now.
Lars Harry leaned back in his chair, a mixture of anticipation and disbelief on his face as he opened the session for Coravanta. "We've got something serious to unpack today," he began. "Judge Lyman has officially declared Justin Baldoni's case frivolous, and this isn't just a casual comment, it's a formal reprimand on record. To help us break it down, we have Ron Zambrono here. Ron, great to see you again." Ron nodded, adjusting his glasses as he glanced at the documents in front of him. "Thanks, Lars Harry. It's an important moment. Justin may have had some wins recently, but the reality is, this ruling changes the narrative entirely. The judge's motion for sanctions wasn't just procedural, it was a statement that the claims Justin brought forward were legally frivolous and factually baseless." Lars Harry leaned forward. "Let's clarify for the audience. This wasn't about the entire defamation suit itself, right? This was specifically about the motion for sanctions filed by Blake Lively's legal team." "Exactly," Ron replied. "When Blake's side filed the motion, they essentially argued that the claims Justin and his attorneys filed didn't hold up under legal scrutiny. Rule 11, which the judge cited, exists precisely to prevent attorneys from filing claims they know are without merit. It's both a deterrent and a formal check on legal practice. The judge ultimately agreed with Lively's argument not to impose financial penalties this time, but to issue a formal reprimand against the firms involved, which is a serious blow to their credibility." "That's huge," Lars Harry said. "So, a slap on the wrist, but not just a casual one. This actually hits reputations and could have long-term implications for the lawyers involved. Can you break down exactly what the judge said?" Ron pulled up the ruling on his tablet. "Sure." The judge noted that Friedman and Seal League, representing Baldoni, violated Rule 11 by filing claims that were frivolous and without factual basis. However, the court didn't order them to pay sanctions, which is significant. Essentially, the judge's point is clear: you never should have filed these claims. It's a formal reprimand, and for attorneys of this caliber, it's a major professional mark. It's something no lawyer wants on their record because it can scare off future clients and erode trust in high-profile cases. Lars Harry nodded thoughtfully. "And Rule 11 itself is there to stop attorneys from flooding courts with meritless cases, correct? The idea is to uphold the integrity of the system, particularly in federal court." "Exactly," Ron said. "The rule functions as both a preventative measure and a warning. Every new attorney fears it, and even experienced lawyers don't want it. Friedman is well regarded in legal circles. This isn't someone inexperienced. For him to receive a reprimand signals that even high-profile, highly competent attorneys are not above scrutiny when they file claims lacking legal and factual merit. That's why this is such a notable moment in the case." Lars Harry shifted in his chair. "Now, what about the specifics of the claims? There was mention of adding multiple parties: Steve Sowitz, Melissa Nathan, Jennifer Abel. How did that factor into the judge's ruling?" Ron nodded. "This is key. The judge made it very clear that these additional parties had no legal basis to sue Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. The cross-complaints bundled them together improperly, and the court emphasized that combining these parties was inappropriate. The implication here is twofold. First, it reflects poor legal strategy. Second, it underscores that this was as much a PR and ego-driven maneuver as a legal one. Both sides have been using litigation to control the narrative in the media, but the judge isn't swayed by that, his focus solely on legal merit." Lars Harry tapped the table thoughtfully. "So, the question is, did the attorneys knowingly overstep? Were they aware this was risky?" Ron leaned back. "Highly likely. These are sophisticated, high-caliber firms. They had to have seen the risk. In legal practice, firms like this often send formal warnings to clients if they pursue potentially sanctionable claims. It's probable that internal counsel advised caution, but the choice was made to move forward anyway. That's part of why the reprimand was issued. The judge recognized that these weren't inexperienced lawyers making an innocent mistake." "And how does this impact Justin Baldoni himself?" Lars Harry asked. Does this mean his case is dead, or is this more a reflection on his attorneys? This is crucial, Ron said. The case itself still exists. This ruling doesn't invalidate the claims entirely, it specifically addresses procedural and filing issues. For Justin, this is about optics and credibility. With Friedman's firm receiving the reprimand, Justin's team brought in Shapiro as a buffer, essentially to protect the client and manage courtroom perception. The addition of Shapiro allows the case to move forward without immediate reputational damage affecting the trial strategy. Lars Harry paused. It's interesting you mention courtroom strategy. Friedman isn't primarily a trial lawyer, correct? He's more focused on settlement negotiations and positioning cases to encourage opposition to settle. Exactly, Ron replied. This whole situation has been very much a PR-driven strategy, almost a chess match. Friedman has a reputation for leveraging cases for settlement rather than taking them to trial. Bringing Shapiro in appears to be a calculated move to reinforce credibility and maintain momentum in the courtroom while keeping the narrative controlled. It's an acknowledgement that some of the prior strategy may have overstepped legal boundaries, but they're still trying to protect their client's position. Lars Harry leaned in. So, what's the takeaway for the media narrative versus the legal reality? Ron smiled slightly. It's a stark reminder that these high-profile cases are never just about legal merits, they're about strategy, perception, and timing. The media sees headlines and drama, but the judge is focused on procedure and law. In this case, Lyman has separated the legal validity from the PR spectacle, issuing a formal reprimand where appropriate. Justin's team still has an opportunity to argue the substantive case, but the attorneys now have to operate with heightened caution. One misstep could result in real consequences beyond a reprimand. Lars Harry looked to the camera. So, in short, this is a procedural loss for Baldoni's team, a reputational hit for the attorneys, but the case itself continues. The key players have adjusted strategies, and the courtroom now has a clearer boundary between what is legally permissible and what is not. Ron nodded. Exactly. And moving forward, every motion, every filing will be under scrutiny. The lesson is clear, even high-profile attorneys must adhere strictly to Rule 11. The reprimand serves as both a warning and a reminder that in federal court, no one is immune to oversight. Lars Harry closed the segment, summarizing for viewers, we'll be watching closely as this unfolds. With Shapiro now involved and the core claims still active, the legal battle is far from over. Justin Baldoni may have survived the procedural blow, but the courtroom landscape has shifted, and every move from here on will be critical. Stay tuned to Coravanta for continuous updates. Lars Harry reopened the session on Coravanta with a sense of urgency. All right, everyone, we're diving straight into what this means moving forward. The reprimand against Friedman and his firm is serious, but now the focus shifts to strategy and trial implications. Ron, where do we go from here? Ron leaned forward, highlighting his notes. The reprimand doesn't end the case, it changes the dynamics. Friedman's credibility took a hit in the eyes of Judge Lyman, which is why the Shapiro firm's involvement is so critical. Shapiro serves as a credibility buffer, ensuring that the case continues without the prior reputational risks cascading into the courtroom proceedings. This is a deliberate move, and it signals an understanding of both legal perception and courtroom optics. Lars Harry nodded. So, in terms of courtroom maneuvering, what does this mean for Justin Baldoni himself? Could the judge's formal remarks indirectly influence rulings on substantive issues? Potentially, Ron said carefully. A federal judge's opinion on Rule 11 violations primarily addresses attorney behavior, not the client's claims. But credibility matters. If the judge perceives that the attorney mishandled procedural obligations, it can create subtle disadvantages, objections may be scrutinized more carefully, motions weighed with extra caution, and every filing is under the microscope. That's why bringing in Shapiro is strategic. It allows Justin to continue presenting his case without the judge immediately associating procedural missteps with him personally. Lars Harry continued, let's talk about strategy for both sides. From what we've seen, Friedman is more settlement-oriented, not typically a trial attorney. Does this reprimand push him to reconsider or double down on settlement talks? Ron smiled. Exactly. Historically, Friedman has been excellent at positioning cases to induce settlements. But this is not a simple case, it's high profile, it's media-driven, and the stakes are as much about perception as legal merit. The reprimand may push him to be more cautious, but it doesn't eliminate the underlying strategy of applying pressure to encourage the other side to settle on favorable terms. Bringing Shapiro in strengthens the presentation, and it shows the court and the opposition that the team is serious about proceeding responsibly. Lars Harry leaned back, reflecting. Interesting. Now, regarding the additional parties, Steve Sowitz, Melissa Nathan, Jennifer Abel, the judge was very clear these individuals had no legal basis to sue. How does that affect overall case cohesion? Ron explained, bundling unrelated parties in litigation is risky, especially in high-stakes federal court. The judge emphasized that each claim must stand on its own merits. Attempting to consolidate these parties not only diluted the credibility of Baldoni's filings but also suggested strategic maneuvering for media attention rather than strictly legal justification. It's a reminder that in federal court, procedural integrity outweighs public relations efforts. Lars Harry nodded. So, the media battle versus the legal battle, this has been a recurring theme throughout the case. How do you see that playing out now? Ron leaned forward. The PR aspect has always been prominent, but the reprimand signals that the court isn't impressed by media strategy. Legal merit is paramount. Both sides may have been trying to shape public perception, but the court focuses on rules and facts. Going forward, media narratives will be secondary to procedural and substantive law. That said, attorneys will continue managing both aspects carefully because perception still influences settlement negotiations and jury impressions. Lars Harry interjected, speaking of settlement, given the current position, does it make sense for Justin or Blake to consider a negotiated resolution, or are they likely to press forward to trial? Ron nodded thoughtfully. It depends on leverage. Justin's team might feel emboldened, knowing the case itself remains active despite the reprimand. Blake's team might consider the reputational risks of proceeding to trial. Federal jury trials, especially high-profile ones, can expose plaintiffs to intense media scrutiny. Ultimately, settlements are about risk calculation and public image management. Either side could leverage these considerations to reach a resolution, but only if counsel aligns strategy with client expectations and risk tolerance. Lars Harry looked at the camera. So, we're entering a critical stage where both legal tactics and media strategy intersect. How do you see the judge influencing this moving forward? Ron replied, Judge Lyman has shown meticulous attention to both procedural integrity and legal merit. His ruling on the Rule 11 motion demonstrates that he will scrutinize filings carefully, separate legal facts from PR maneuvers, and issue clear guidance on what is permissible. This sets a precedent for the remainder of the litigation. Attorneys must now operate within tighter constraints while balancing the narrative, ensuring all filings and motions are legally sound and factually accurate. Lars Harry leaned forward, emphasizing the significance. So, every filing, every motion, and every courtroom argument is now under heightened scrutiny. Any misstep could have amplified consequences. Absolutely, Ron confirmed. Rule 11 sanctions exist to enforce accountability. Attorneys involved in high-profile cases must understand that even subtle oversights can result in formal reprimands, damage reputations, or influence case dynamics. The addition of Shapiro's firm mitigates this for Baldoni, but vigilance remains essential. Credibility, attention to detail, and strategic foresight are critical now more than ever. Lars Harry continued, what about the broader implications for media coverage? These are celebrity figures, after all. Does this reprimand shift public perception? Ron smiled. Public perception will always be shaped by headlines, but the courtroom is impervious to that. The reprimand itself is procedural, not substantive regarding Justin's claims. Media will likely sensationalize the term frivolous, but informed observers should note that the case is ongoing. The public sees drama, the court sees rules and merit. That distinction is essential for anyone following this litigation. Lars Harry turned to Ron. Given everything, what advice would you give to either side if they sought to minimize risk moving forward? Ron leaned back. For plaintiffs, particularly high-profile ones like Blake Lively, it's essential to assess whether continuing the case outweighs potential reputational and career risks. For defendants, maintaining procedural discipline, ensuring legal filings are airtight, and leveraging credible counsel like Shapiro will be key. Both sides need to reconcile legal strategy with public perception. Missteps in either can be costly. In essence, it's about controlling the narrative without compromising legal integrity. Lars Harry nodded, summarizing for viewers. In conclusion, the formal reprimand against Baldoni's attorneys serves as a pivotal moment. It doesn't end the case, but it shifts dynamics. Credibility, strategy, and courtroom precision are now at the forefront. Both sides must carefully navigate these waters, balancing litigation tactics with media attention. Coravanta will continue to provide updates as this unfolds, ensuring you stay informed on every procedural development, strategic maneuver, and potential settlement. Stay tuned, this story is far from over. Ron added a final note, exactly. Litigation is a marathon, not a sprint. While headlines capture attention, the substantive legal process unfolds meticulously. Every filing, every motion, every decision matters. The reprimand is a warning, but it also demonstrates that even in high-profile cases, courts prioritize law and procedure above all else. Lars Harry closed the segment. Thank you, Ron, for your insight. And thank you, viewers, for joining us on Coravanta. Hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. When Judge Lyman issues the next updates, we'll be breaking them down immediately. Stay tuned for expert analysis, legal insight, and an inside look at one of Hollywood's most high-profile legal battles.